Welcome back to the channel. In this tutorial, we'll walk through how to set up a basic Flask project with user authentication. Implement roles like admin, editor, and viewer. Protect routes based on user roles. Use Flask login, Flask SQL account, and Venzoic for password hashing. Handle redirects and error messages gracefully. Build a simple dashboard where roles matter. At the end of this, you will have a working mini Flask app with full user control ready to plug in into any real-world project. Next, let's install our dependencies. Inside your terminal, enter the following code: pip install Flask, Flask-login, Flask-SQL Alchemy. Here, Flask is the web framework, while Flask-login for handling login sessions, Flask-SQL Alchemy for database models. Alright, now that we have our Flask app initialized and database ready, let's create a user model. Think of this as a table that stores everyone who registers on the app, including their role. Create a folder flask_roles_app, which will be our main project folder. And inside it, create a file app.py, models.py. Create two additional folders, templates and static, inside the project folder. This will be our folder structure for this tutorial. Now, inside our models.py file, add the following code. Here, the user mixin gives our user model more built-in login sections behavior, like is_authenticated and gets_ID methods. The ID will be a unique ID for each user, which auto-increments. We don't need to touch this. The username and password will store the username and password hash. While role, this is the magic sauce. It tells us whether a user is a viewer, editor, or admin. Let's move on to allowing users to register. Next, this is where things start to come alive. You know how every good machine needs a control center. In Flask, that's our app.py. We're going to connect all the moving parts, the app itself, the database, and the user authentication system. First, let's bring in the tools we need. From Flask, we import Flask, the core web framework we are building on. Render_templates, redirect, URL_for, request, and flash. These are our everyday Flask bodies that handle page rendering, form data, redirection, and showing messages. Then from Flask_login, we import login manager, login_user, login_required, logout_user, and current user. This handles everything about user sections: login, keeping users logged in, logging out, and checking their current status. Then from our model, we import DB and user. This is where the user model and DB objects live. We'll wire them up in a sec. Then from the Venzoic.security, we import generate_password_hash, check_password_hash. These guys help keep passwords safe. Never ever store plain text passwords. And these functions are how we hash and verify them, not negotiable for real-world apps. Now let's start building the app. Here, we have just created our Flask app. Think of it like turning on the engine. Flask uses this string to keep things secure, like managing sessions and flash messages. In real-world projects, we use an environment variable or a secret manager for this key. The SQL Alchemy _database_URI. This tells SQL Alchemy where to store our data. Here, we're using a local SQLite database file called db.sqli3. Super lightweight, perfect for development. Next, we wire up our DB object from model.py to this specific Flask app. Now they are connected, like plugging in a keyboard to a computer. Now for user handling, the login manager is the Flask login brain. It manages user sections, checks who's logged in, and knows what to do when they are not. This line is where unauthorized users get redirected if they try to access a protected page. So if someone tries to sneak into /dashboard without logging in, we politely say, go to login first. Finally, this hooks the brain into our main app. Everything is connected now. Now let's teach Flask login to remember who is logged in. Alright, now that our login manager is all set up, we need to teach it how to remember users between requests. Because honestly, what's the point of logging in if your app forgets who you are the moment you click to another page? That's where this little function comes in. This is a special decorator from Flask. It tells Flask hey, whenever you are trying to figure out who the current login user is, this is the function you should call. While the load_user function receives a user ID, usually stored securely in their section cookie. Flask-login passes the ID to our function behind the scenes every time a page loads. The return user.query.getLine is doing the detective work. It's querying the user model and returning the user whose ID matches. We cast it to int just to be safe, since IDs are stored as strings in cookies. Think of it like this. Every time a logged in user makes a new request, for example, visits the dashboard, refreshes the page, Flask says, I see a section cookie here. Let's call that load_user function and see who this person is. All right, my friend, it's time to lay the bricks that will hold all our user data. We've defined the structure, our user model, we've set up the wiring, our app.py, and now we're about to build the actual database file where all this data will live. Think of this as creating the db.sqlite3 mansion. This width line is crucial. Flask needs something called an application context to know what app is dealing with. Without this, trying to create the database will just give you a confused error like working outside of application context. So we run our code inside this context block, just like saying, hey Flask, I'm working with you now. Let's go. The db.create_all looks at all the models we have defined and creates the appropriate tables inside a new db.sqlite3 file. Boom! We just created our first database. Alright, we've built the house, our app. We've poured the foundation in the database. And now it's time to install the front doors, the register and login routes, so users can actually get in and start using the app. This step is where things get real, where our users interact with forms and our backend saves or verifies their info. Let's do this together. Here, the app.route decorator says, hey Flask, whenever someone visits /register, I've got something for them. We allow both get and post method. If the request.method is equals post, this checks if the user submitted a form. If they are just visiting the page, this part is skipped. This will grab the username from the form field named username. Why here is where we secure the password. Instead of storing it as a plain text, we hash it using the generate_password_hash method. This grabs the selected row. Remember, we are building a row-based system here. Then we create a new user object using these values. And just like a good chef putting a dish in the oven, we add the user to the database and commit the changes. The flash here is a friendly message to the user. It will pop up in the user interface to confirm registration. Here, once registered, we gently nudge them over to the login page. Finally, if the user is just loading the page, which is a GET request, we render the form. Next up, the login route. Here is how we handle user login. Again, we support both GET and POST requests. GET just shows the form, POST handles login. Inside the POST block, the user.query.filter_by searches the database for the user trying to log in. While the check_password_hash, this compares the stored hashed password with the password the user just typed. If they match, we log them in. The login_user, this is the magic line from Flask login. It handles the session and says, alright, this person is now officially logged in. If something doesn't match, we flash an error, invalid credentials. Then finally, just like before, if the request method is GET, we show the form. Now just a quick one. What is Flash again? Think of Flash like a little whisper to your templates. It's how your backend passes quick and one-time message to the user, like you're registered successfully or oops, invalid password. You can then show this message in your templates using a simple loop. We'll set that up later in our base.html file. With both these routes in place, users can now register and log in. They can get into our app and Flash-login will take care of the section magic. Alright, imagine we've got a dashboard where admins can see all users and regular users can only see their own stuff. We don't want a regular user just typing /admin into the URL and suddenly seeing sensitive admin info, right? We're going to build a decorator, a reusable mini guide to protect routes based on user roles. Think of it as a bouncer at a club, only letting in folks who are on the VIP list. Here is the code. From func tools import wraps. This is Python's way of saying, hey, don't break the function metadata like its name or docstring when we wrap it with another function. Basically, this line makes sure our decorator behaves like a proper citizen. While this lets us send an HTTP code like 404 forbidding if someone tries to access something they shouldn't. Now for the real MVP, the function role_required, we call it with a role like role_required admin. It gives us back a decorator function. This is Flask's way of intercepting a route before it runs. Inside the decorator, we define the wrapper, which is what actually runs in place of our original function. Before it lets our original function run, it checks if this user's role is what we expect. If not, shut it down and send a 404 forbidding error. If the role does match, we call the original function. Now that users can register, log in, and even have a role attached to them, it's time to give them a home inside the app. But we are not just tossing open the doors to anyone. No, only users who are logged in get access to this VIP lounge. Here is how we set it up. This dashboard route decorator is where our logged in users will land after logging in. It's like the home page of our app, but only for people who are signed in. Next, the login_required decorator. This is doing some serious security work here. It says, hey Flask, before you even think of showing this page, make sure the user is logged in. If they are not, kick them over to the login page. Behind the scenes, it checks the section and all that stuff for you. Super handy. If a user isn't logged in, they won't even see this page. It's totally off limits. Next, we define the dash function that runs when someone visits the /dashboard route. Nothing fancy here, just our usual view function. Next, render_template is how Flask renders the actual HTML file, dashboard_HTML in this case. We are passing in user equals current_user. And this is the cool part. Current_user comes from Flask login and gives us the actual logged in user object. So inside our dashboard.html, we can do stuff like hello with a username because we pass the user variable from Flask into the template. Nice and clean. You may ask, why does this matter? We're not just making a dashboard, we're making a secure, personalized experience for our users. They see their name, they know they are logged in, and most importantly, only they can see it. It's like having your own room in a shared apartment. You've got the key and no one else can just barge in. Okay, now things are getting exciting. So far, we've built user registration and login, we've added role-based logic, and we've set up a secure dashboard. But now, we're about to unlock something exclusive, a page that only admins can access. Think of it like this. Your app has a hidden control room. Only the chosen few get to step inside. Let's build that. The admin route creates a brand new page in our app. The URL path/admin. This route creates a URL path/admin. This is our secure admin control room. The login_required decorator, as we've seen before, it makes sure that only logged in users can get in. If you are not logged in and you try to visit /admin, Flask will redirect you to the login page. Recall, we defined the role_required function earlier. It's our custom decorator that checks if the current user has a specific role. Here, we're saying you've got to be logged in and your role must be admin. If the user is logged in but not an admin, they get the boot. More specifically, Flask will throw a 404 forbidding error, just like trying to get into a members-only lounge with the wrong wristband. This is our view function. It controls what happens when someone visits the /admin. For now, we're keeping it simple. If the user makes it past both guards, logged in and an admin, they get a warm welcome admin message. You can totally swap this out later for something fancier, like an actual HTML template or admin dashboard with buttons and charts. For now, this message proves everything is wired up properly. Alright, you've built registration, login, role-based access. You're killing it. Now let's add a final touch, the logout functionality. Because let's be honest, even in the coolest apps, users eventually need to log out, switching accounts, or just feeling extra private today. So here is how we make that happen in Flask with just a few lines of code. This defines a new route in our app. Now when someone visits /logout, the function is triggered. You probably link to this route from a logout button in your navbar or dashboard later. The login underscore required decorator. This is that trusty security guard again. We don't want just anyone visiting the logout routes. If someone is not logged in, they really have no business logging out. So this ensures only logged in users can access this route. Here, this is our view function. When triggered, it handles the process of logging out the current user. This is the magic line right here. The logout underscore user is provided by Flask-login. It clears the current session, ends the user's login status. Basically, it wipes the your login sticker off the user's forehead. After logging the user out, we don't just leave them hanging. We redirect them to the login page as a nice little loop. It's like saying you're logged out. Want to sign in again? If your app is more complex, you could also redirect them to a home page or show a custom you're logged out message. But this is clean and effective for now. Now that we've built our back-end routes and user flow, it's time to give everything a nice and consistent look. Think of base.html as a layout skeleton, a comfy living room that all our pages like login, register, and dashboard will share. It's a common ground where the header, navigation, flash messages, and footer lives. Whenever a new page comes in, it will just inject its own content into the structure. Kind of like adding new furniture to an already styled room. Let's build it. The title block tag. These two are the stars of the show when it comes to templating in Flask using Ginger tool. The block title tag lets each page define its own title that shows up in the browser tab, while the content block is where each child page injects its custom stuff. Forms, messages, dashboards, you name it. Think of them as placeholders that the child pages will fill in. Here we're checking if the user is logged in. If yes, we show their username, role, dashboard link, maybe an admin link, and logout. If not, we guide them to log in or register. We also include a block to catch any flashed messages like success message or login errors. These are stored temporarily and shown once. We wrap this in a styled red box to make alerts pop visually. You'll see this in action when you log in with wrong credentials or register. We throw in a basic CSS style block directly in the file just to make things less bare bones. You can later extract this into a separate style.css in a static folder for scalability. Time to roll out the red carpet for your users. The login page is like the front door to your app. It should feel simple, clean, and welcoming. And since it's inheriting from the cozy base.html layout, all we need to do is fill in the content block. Let's make it look good and feel better. The login form is placed in a sleek card with soft shadows and padding, giving it a professional app feel. Here we've styled the input box to be full width and ease on the eyes. We also added emoji icons for little fun and clarity. We've kept everything readable with emphasis on labels and clean spacing. Inside the register.html file, the first thing we do is extend the base.html file. Remember, this base template contains the overall structure of our website and want all the pages to follow that same structure. So when we write the extend Ginger2 tag, we're telling Flask to inherit everything from the base HTML so we don't have to repeat code. The title block tag. This block allows each page to have a custom title. In this case, we're setting the title of the page to register, but in other templates, you might want to set different titles, like login and dashboard. It makes each page identifiable in the browser tab. The block content tag. This is the area where the specific content of the page will go. Everything inside this block will be unique to the page. In this case, it's the form that allows a new user to register. This headings is there to guide the user. It's welcoming, saying, hey, it's time to register. We've also centered it on the page and made the text color a soft shade of gray for that modern and clean feel. Now, this is where the magic happens. This div wraps the entire form and gives it a nice, clean container by adding max-width. We are making sure the form doesn't stretch too wide. The margin centers the form and the box-shadow adds a soft shadow to make it feel like it's floating above the page, giving it a modern touch. Next, we've got a single input for username. It's inside a div tag to keep things neat and tidy. The placeholder choose a username gives the user a hint about what to enter, and the input field itself is styled to look spacious and easy to type in. Notice the border attribute. This gives it a clean and light gray border. Next, we have the password field. The only difference from the username field is that this one has a typed password, which means it will hide what the user types, protecting their privacy. It's styled similar to the user field, so everything looks consistent. Next, the role dropdown lets users select if they are a viewer, editor, or admin. This part is crucial because it assigns the user's role, which will control what parts of the app they can access later on. Again, the styling here matches the input fields, giving it that polished feel. Finally, we have the submit button. It's styled with a nice green background to make it stand out, and the white text makes it easy to read. We also add the cursor attribute to make sure the user knows they can click it. This register.html page is all about making sure the user feels comfortable. The design is simple but effective, and it's consistent with the rest of the app. Everything from the input fields to the buttons is styled to be easy to use and look clean. The goal is to make the registration process feel smooth and straightforward. Inside the dashboard.html file, like all the other pages, we start by inheriting from the base.html template. This way, we maintain consistency with our site's layouts and styles. Next, the title block. Just like before, this defines the title of the page. For this page, the title is set to dashboard, which will appear on the browser tab. The block content tag here, this is where we ingest the specific content for the dashboard page. Yes, here the user's welcome message and role information will be displayed. We'll wrap the entire content inside a div tag with a max-width to make sure everything stays neat and doesn't stretch across the screen. The margin attribute centers the container and gives it some breathing room, while the padding attribute makes sure content inside doesn't feel cramped. We've added a soft box shadow to make it feel like the dashboard is elevated above the background. The title "Welcome to your dashboard" is big and bold. The rocket emoji adds a playful touch. Welcome the user with enthusiasm. We also center align it to make it stand out and ensure it's the first thing users see when they visit the dashboard. Below the heading, we display the user's name and their role. This piece of information are dynamic, pulling from the user object, and are presented in an easy-to-read style. We use a slightly larger font size for the name and for the role, which creates a nice hierarchy in the text. It's also centered to keep things balanced and organized. We added a subtle HRA tag with a light gray color to break up the sections visually. This adds a bit of structure to the page without feeling too heavy. At the end, we have a friendly reminder. Here, you can manage your profile, explore the system, and more. This gives users a warm introduction to what they can do on their dashboard. It's also centered and styled in a softer tone with a smaller font size, making it clear but unobtrusive. This dashboard page provides users with a personal, welcoming experience as they log in. It shows key details like their username and role in a structured and stylish layout. Not only does it look clean, but it's also functional and easy to navigate. Inside the admin.html file, as with all pages, we are inheriting from the base.html to maintain consistency in layers and in styling. This keeps our design unified across the entire app. The block title tag gives the page a unique title in the browser tab. Admin panel is straightforward and to the point, so the user knows immediately they are inside the admin section. The content is wrapped in a div tag with a clean and cryptic design. The max-width ensures that the content doesn't stretch across the page and is centered nicely with ample padding for a spacious feel. The box-shadow adds a subtle elevation effect, giving the page a floating and modern look. Here we use a bold, centered heading. The ranch emoji adds a playful and fitting touch, emphasizing the admin's role as someone who can manage and configure system. This little touch breaks the formality while making it professional. The next line reinforces the exclusivity of the page, ensuring the user understands that they are entering a privileged space. The message is in a font size 1.2 for prominence and is also center aligned to make it stand out. The horizontal row tab gives a clean visual break between sections. helping the content feel organized and easy to digest. The last paragraph is a welcoming reminder of the admin's powers and responsibilities. It's meant to be lighthearted but professional. Admins have power, but they should use it wisely. It started in a smaller font to create a subtle hierarchy in the text. The admin.html page serves as a gateway for admins to access exclusive system management features. It's visually clean, with enough style to make it look polished but not too overloaded. The friendly language and subtle design touches create an inviting yet professional admin space where admins can feel confident managing the system. If you found this guide helpful and want to dive deeper into Flask, web development, and Python, make sure to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you will stay up to date with all our latest tutorials, tips, and projects to keep leveling up your skills. Whether you're a beginner or looking to advance your coding journey, we've got you covered.